good Thursday. I don't know if it's really a good Thursday or not because, of course, today is the anniversary of 9/11. And I know there's going to be a million people out here with videos today that are going to be discussing this very topic. And that's fantastic. I would like to see YouTube flooded with videos about, how you've been after it, what's happened, where were you when it happened, stuff like that. The big thing going around the news is people are, where were you when it happened? And I can remember as clear as day where I was at. I was still in Illinois. I was working at a job. I was driving for a company, and we were in the middle of loading up my truck. And in our customer bay, one of the guys pulled in. He said, "Take it now. This is about 11 o'clock Chicago time. So naturally, that would have put it back to that would have been noon New York time, Eastern time, and so it would have happened for a couple hours." And I remember the guy came in. Excuse me, I have a bug right there. I remember the guy came into the shop and he said, "Oh my God, have you guys heard that they've bombed the World Trade Center?" That was his exact words. They bombed the World Trade Center. And for some reason, I'm 39 years old at this time. I'm maybe a little bit more than a month away from turning 40. And I remember immediately thinking to myself, for some reason, my mind went back to something I saw when I was... Now, apparently, back in the late 40s, there was a small single-engine plane, like a Cessna or something, that had at one point crashed into some high-rise in New York. And it escapes my brain at the moment, right? But it was a big story back then. For some reason, when he said that the World Trade Center had been bombed, my mind went to that image. I don't know why. I do love history, and it was a history class, so, maybe it was something that was just in my brain. And then the part that bothered me the most after that was simply the fact that we had the most insensitive prick of a boss at this place. And I remember him explaining to us as we were all standing gathering around, because, he's telling us, they're saying thousands of people have been killed. It's a disaster in New York. Everybody from surrounding states is sending help. And we're trying to gather this information because this is our fucking country. Okay? That's the way I looked at it. This is my goddamn country. And this prick of a boss looked at us all and said, "I don't give a fuck about the New York Trade Center. We got jobs to do. Let's get them done." And I remember that minute, I hated that man. I hated him to the day I freaking quit, which is about a year and a half later because I couldn't stand the man. But I will never forget that. Him looking at us and saying, "I don't give a rat's ass," or "I don't give a fuck about the World Trade Center." And I remember we went home and we came back to work the next day. And, of course, it's on everybody's mind. This is a national tragedy. I mean, this just happened. Regardless of how it happened, who caused it, why, or the wins, when's, what, who cares about all that? The fact is, this is something that's happening in my fucking country, in one of the biggest cities in my country, and my boss doesn't give a flying fuck about anybody. Except for the almighty goddamn dollar that day. That's all he cared about. We have jobs to do. Let's get them going. "Jim, aren't you supposed to be making a delivery right now? I don't give a shit about people dying in New York. I'm not in New York." It's like, really? Really? Oh my God. How can you be like that? How could you be like that? Now, another thing that really has bothered me since 9/11, of course, everybody's life in America changed. It changed that day. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, there's people like my daughter Miranda. She was only she's 2 years old. the other little YouTuber out here, Sam Tampa, he was only about 1 or 2. But their lives changed too. Their lives changed the instant that those planes hit those buildings. Fire department. We have a bunch of old people down the road, so who am I kidding? I'll be joining them soon. I already feel like I'm 90, and I shouldn't. I'm only 58 for Christ's sakes. But even before those children were born, their lives were affected. Air travel was affected. Airplanes were affected. I mean, you know, whenever there's a tragedy, our government will always step in and create a bogus entity to take care of the problem. In this case, we got TSA. Total waste of time and effort. These guys are a joke and a half. If you work for TSA, you're a joke. Real quickly, one thing that me and my wife noticed, we were coming down to Florida. This is one of our vacations. And I think we were in Orlando Airport. And we watched 2 of the most perverted TSA officers ever getting their frickin' jollies off of frisking, hands-on, frisking 12-year-old girls who were part of a Swedish soccer team who were traveling for a tournament. Yeah, these guys, these grown-ass perverted pieces of shit, putting their hands up and down these little 12-year-old girls' bodies. And I'm watching the one guy, and he literally has a smile on his face like he is in heaven. And the coach is even saying to them, hey, come on. They're 12-year-old girls. Go through their bags. I get that. You know, they're in Orlando. They're in shorts and T-shirts. Are they carrying M16s or AK-47s in their little training bras? Do they got grenades in their pockets? No. Now, instead of picking out 3 or 4 of these, there's probably 12 of them. Instead of picking out 3 or 4 of these little girls and doing a random, this was a random, by the way, too. This was an absolute random search. Random my fucking ass. These 2 fucking perverts wanted to touch these little girls. That's why they pulled them out of line. Because I'm an asshole. When I get frisked by TSA, I make all sorts of comments to them. You know, like when they put their hand up near my crotch, I go, you feel that? Are you jealous? You know, stuff like that. Or I remember I said to one guy one time, he was frisking me, and I said, so when do we go out? Oh, that's not very appropriate, sir. This is for your safety. No, it's not. No, it is not. You are not searching me for my safety. You are searching me because you are part of a government entity that has to create a quota to make it look like that tax dollars are going for good use. That's all it is. So, and one last thing that really bothers me about 9/11 is the fact that, first off, the Bush family, President Bush especially, lied to us. Lied. Straight, bold-face lied to us. With his little fucking mega horn down there on ground zero, when the guy yells out, we can't hear you, and I can hear you. We're going to get the evildoers. What the fuck is an evildoer? All right, just say terrorist, you asshole. That's how he lied. And then the biggest lie Bush ever came out with was never forget. Now, I guarantee you, everybody on my YouTube list here of channels that are on the conservative side, none of you forgot. None of you forgot. Sam Tampa, you didn't forget. Deplorable Bobby, you sure as hell didn't forget. Alex Disabled Vet, you didn't forget. Island Life Fishing, you didn't forget. I didn't forget. But the biggest fucking problem right now in this country is simply this. We got assholes in this fucking world who don't give a fuck. They don't care. Oh, it happened 18 years ago. What do I have to care about that for? What do you have to care about that for? Because you were played by your own government. You were lied to by your own government 18 years ago. Now, I'm not going to discuss the who's, where's, what's, when's, how's, why's. All I'm going to tell you is simply this. There is great, great evidence out there that all of this was bullshit. This was somebody trying to create a mass panic in a huge city so they can implement martial law, which was signed by Bill Clinton in his presidency, and which was also highly backed by his evil wife, Hillary. Two of the most prolific serial killers in the country today, and still walk free, which is amazing to me. But that's a totally different video. But the biggest problem I have right now with the remembrance of this day is the fact that there are people out there who don't care, who don't want to remember, who don't give a shit, who don't care that 3,000 plus people died, who don't give a shit that they were lied to by a sitting president, who don't give a shit about what happened to the World Trade Center, because it doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does affect you. It affects every single one of us as Americans from 9/11 to the present day. 18 years later, it matters. It still matters. But there's so many people who just want to turn a blind eye to it and go, you know. We are losing first responders from 9/11 at an astonishing rate. They're getting cancers that people have never seen before. They're getting breathing problems, respiratory problems, heart problems, lung problems. And yes, was it part of the building materials? I'm sure it was. But there's also pretty darn good evidence out there that whoever planted these bombs in the World Trade Center, because that's what it was, people. Planes hit a building, they don't explode out. They explode inward. Diesel fuel does not explode that violently with no reason, for no ignition, okay? Heat from the building, yes, I get it. Also, the pylons, the main support building, the main support for the World Trade Centers were made to withstand the impact of a plane, and they were also made to withstand heat in excess of, I think, 2,500 degrees, but yet the backbone of those buildings melted. How do they melt? Plain diesel fuel doesn't burn that hot. I mean, it burns hot, and I can see some of the smaller metal pieces having fatigue and showing traces of being burned and melted, but not the main ones. Too many things out there, folks. Too many things out there. And you know what? Maybe on my deathbed, I will have a moment of clarity where I will be able to say to myself, I know the truth, but I don't think we're ever going to know the truth. And in my opinion only, this was done by our government. This was done to benefit somebody, not quite sure who. And and I really wouldn't even put it past the Clintons if they had something to do with it. I really wouldn't. It's just a sad situation all the way around. But please, as long as you live, do not forget this date in history. Do not forget it, because it is the utmost imperativeness that we never forget what happened until the truth comes out. And unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to see the truth, at least in the rest of my lifetime. So, that's the rant for today. And Sam Tampa, you little booger, you stole my opening. That's all right. I'm just kidding you, man. I'm just kidding you, brother. I did watch your video. I haven't commented on it yet, but I have watched it. And I will be commenting on it soon. So please, never forget. Have a great rest of your day. Remember those that died. Remember those that lied. Remember all those people. Remember everything about that day. Teach your grandkids. Teach your children. Teach your great-grandchildren if you have any. Teach everybody not to forget this, because this was a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that happened. And too many people just want to forget about it. One more thing. Proof that we've forgotten about it. Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar is sitting in our Congress and openly mocks 9/11. How does that happen in America? I don't know. don't get it. I just don't get it. I honest to God, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Well, to the rest of my conservative friends out there, remember today and have a great, it's Wednesday. Have a great Wednesday. Sometimes I forget what day of the week it is. And that's about it. Thanks for listening. I do appreciate it. We'll talk to you again. Bye.